The thing is, Bob, it's not that I'm lazy. It's that I just don't care.
Don't care?
It's a problem of motivation, all right? Now, if I work my ass off and Initech ships a few extra units, I don't see another dime. So where's the motivation?
Remember when cubicles felt like tiny prison cells but with nicer staplers? Office Space was Mike Judge's straight-faced tribute to how awful work can feel. A 1999 comedy about TPS reports, cruel bosses, and the printer we all dreamed of smashing to pieces. The plot? 3 programmers finally reached their limit with cubicle life. Peter, played by Ron Livingston, Michael, played by David Herman, and Samir, played by Adai Nadu, decide to pull off the perfect crime, stealing tiny fractions of a cent at a time. The plan is smart. The follow-through? Not so much. Today we're listing strange facts about Office Space, from almost cast actors and Jennifer Aniston wearing too much flair to the red swing line stapler that didn't even exist until this movie made it popular. Stay tuned for number 14, because Mike Judge said no to a huge job you'd know right away. Now before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps YouTube show this video to more Gen X slackers just like you. And tell us in the comments if you want more retro movie deep dives just like this one.
Now let's clock in and start the countdown with number 1, the red stapler that fans wished into real life. In a movie filled with dull cubicle gray, one bright splash of red became iconic. Milton stapler was just something they spray painted, but it accidentally kicked off a whole merchandising craze.
Oh, there it is.
What? Here, let me just go ahead and get that from you.
Great.
Swingline didn't make their 747 model in red, so the prop team grabbed a black one, covered it with real red spray paint, and put it on Milton's desk so it would stand out in all the dull office gray. Nobody thought that little prop would become the movie's surprise star. But then again, nobody thought the film would turn into a cult classic either. After Office Space hit DVD and cable, fans started bombarding Swingline with the same question: where's the red stapler? eBay sellers began offering homemade versions, some spray-painted in garages, with way more excitement than skill. And finally, in April of 2002, 3 years after the movie flopped, Swingline gave in and released an official red 747. It instantly became a top seller, beating out their plain black models. Sometimes a failure in February turns into a surprise merchandising miracle by April.
Number 2. Milton started as a doodle on Mike Judge's own desk. Before Office Space was ever a movie, Milton Wadhams was basically Mike Judge's workplace revenge fantasy, probably inspired by some unlucky cubicle worker who wouldn't stop talking about his desk being moved. The character came from a real coworker who constantly complained about desk relocations, which seems small until you realize that tiny bits of workplace misery ended up becoming the base of an entire corporate dystopia. Judge first made Milton as an animated short that became popular on MTV's Liquid Television in the early 90s. That same underground show gave us Aeon Flux and taught a whole generation of night owls that animation could be seriously uncomfortable.
Excuse me, sir. I'm going to transfer you to accounts payable, okay?
Well, no. Well, but I'm gonna... Okay.
The series showed a shy, nervous employee getting pushed around by his boss, an early version of Bill Lumbergh, complete with that soul-destroying monotone voice we would all eventually learn to dread.
Oh, and if you could just kind of go over those AIU DCP files at home tonight, that would be great. Okay? Well, thanks a bunch, Milton. Bye-bye. What?
The shorts turned into cult favorites, showing up on both Liquid Television and Saturday Night Live throughout the early to mid-90s. Eventually, Fox noticed the potential and asked Judge if he would turn it into a full movie. Judge expanded the idea from one miserable employee to an entire office full of worn-down people, keeping Milton and Lumbergh as the emotional core. And just like that, simple desk relocations became a nationwide trauma.
Number 3. Fox wanted an Oscar winner to play a guy who stopped caring. Hollywood loves irony, so of course Fox wanted Good Will Hunting's Matt Damon or Ben Affleck to star in a movie about hating your job and letting go of every bit of ambition.
Do you like apples?
Yeah.
Well, I got a number.
How do you like them apples?
The perfect face for existential burnout was obviously a recent Oscar winner. Just after Good Will Hunting became a hit in late 1997, executives got obsessed with putting a big name on Office Space. Mike Judge wasn't having it. He needed someone ordinary. Ron Livingston nailed the audition with a perfectly bored performance. He looked like a guy who had accepted life's mediocrity, exactly what the role needed. Damon was too Good Will Hunting for a guy who had given up on chasing anything. The casting chaos didn't end there, though. Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn both tried out for Peter's neighbor, Lawrence, a role that Diedrich Bader finally owned with his mullet and zen vibe while juggling two girls at the same time.
And I think if I were a millionaire, I could hook that up, too, because chicks dig dudes with money.
Well, not all chicks.
Well, the type of chicks that double up on a dude like me do.
Good point.
Well, what about you now? What would you do?
Besides two chicks at the same time?
Well, yeah.
Rumor has it, Kate Hudson auditioned for Joanna, and comedian Artie Lang tried out for Milton, though Jennifer Aniston eventually stepped in, fresh off Friends, to play Joanna.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I do. I do want to express myself. Okay? And I don't need 37 pieces of flair to do it. All right? There's my flair, okay? And this is me expressing myself, okay? There it is.
Giving Fox the marketing star they desperately wanted. Meanwhile, Stephen Root's mumbling skills were already unbeatable, like trying to out-Kramer. Looking back, choosing Livingston over a superstar was the most Office-like decision ever. It was quiet, overlooked, and just perfect. Number 4. Jennifer Aniston got more flair because the studio wanted more Jennifer. Ron Livingston was the lead, but Fox wanted a name that could actually sell posters. So they called up the biggest sitcom star on the planet, even though her role was smaller than Milton's chance at employee appreciation. Jennifer Aniston had just gone global thanks to Friends, which in 1999 was unstoppable, while showing America that coffee shop jobs could somehow pay for Manhattan apartments.
Are we ready to order?
Oh, you know what? We haven't even looked yet.
Well, when you do, just let me know. I'll be right over there on the edge of my seat.
Wow, look at these prices. Yeah, these are pretty cha-ching.
That made her a marketing dream, even if her original Office Space role was barely there. To justify the paycheck, the studio made Mike Judge expand Joanna's storyline, accidentally creating the now famous Flair subplot at Tchotchke that would haunt service workers for years. The result was a manager obsessed with buttons and a scene that became every retail employee's collective PTSD flashback. Aniston only filmed for about 2 weeks, squeezing it in between Friends tapings, like someone adding volunteer work to their resume 5 minutes before a job interview. But her scenes worked perfectly. Her chemistry with Livingston felt natural and real. Her frustration was completely relatable, like she had actually worked a shift at TGI Fridays and was channeling real pain. Number 5. The studio watched the dailies and thought everyone looked asleep. Every cult classic starts with an executive asking, "Why aren't they smiling more?" Office Space was no different. As Mike Judge filmed the movie, Fox executives kept sending notes demanding more energy and faster pacing, completely missing that boredom was literally the whole joke. It's like asking a librarian to crank up the fog machine. It just doesn't make sense. They even told Ron Livingston to lose weight and look more like a typical leading man. Apparently, soul-sucking spreadsheets need abs for some reason. Judge refused, knowing Peter Gibbons wasn't meant to sparkle. He was supposed to look like someone staring into the void while pretending to update a spreadsheet. Things got worse when the executives saw Gary Cole's slow drawing. Yeah.
So, Peter, what's happening? Now, are you going to go ahead and have those TPS reports for us this afternoon?
No. Yeah.
They panicked, sure that the actor was ruining the movie with every drawn-out vowel. Meanwhile, Judge was quietly creating the most accurate version of Office Hell ever filmed, one monotone syllable at a time. The gap between them was huge. The studio wanted Jim Carrey making Ace Ventura faces in a cubicle. Judge, on the other hand, delivered pure existential despair with a side of hypnotherapy. Not even the same genre. They also argued with him over the Geto Boys soundtrack until a test audience fell in love with it. In the end, the studio marketed it like an Office Depot clearance sale, completely missing the tone,
and watched it bomb harder than a frozen computer on deadline day.
Number 6. David Herman's girlfriend accidentally invented no talent ass. Few insults have aged as perfectly as no talent ass clown. And here's the twist, it wasn't even in the script. The original line for Michael Bolton's character was something unprintable about the real singer that seemed legally risky. So actor David Herman asked his girlfriend for help, and she casually came up with what would become one of the greatest improvised insults in movie history.
You know, there's nothing wrong with that name.
There was nothing wrong with it until I was about 12 years old, and that no-talent ass clown became famous and started winning Grammys.
Judge loved it right away. It fit perfectly. It was ridiculous, strangely poetic, and most importantly, safe from lawsuits. The holy trinity of movie insults. The real Michael Bolton hated it at first. In 2003, he complained that fans wouldn't stop quoting it back to him everywhere. Airports, grocery stores, probably even his own concerts. A decade later, he softened, signing DVDs as the real Michael Bolton, and even spoofing the scene in a Funny or Die sketch. Eventually, the phrase outlasted both the movie's theatrical run and the original sting of the insult, landing in Merriam-Webster's dictionary in 2019. Not bad for a throwaway idea from someone who wasn't even on set.
Number 7. The Geto Boys turned office rage into poetry. Every generation has its anthem for frustration. For cubicle workers in 1999, it was Houston gangster rap, and somehow it was just perfect.
Is the group harder than an erection that shows no affection? They want to ban us on Capitol Hill.
Mike Judge fought hard to keep the Geto Boys in Office Space, while Fox executives argued that their music didn't fit a movie about white-collar software engineers. Judge begged for one more test screening and promised to cut it if audiences hated the mix. Instead, a 19-year-old in the focus group saved cinematic history by saying, "That's what's cool, these nerdy white boys with this angry music." The rap stayed, and suddenly angry printers met angry rap in perfect harmony. The Geto Boys, Willie D, Scarface, and Bushwick Bill ended up giving the movie its heartbeat. Willie D later said he loved it, calling the printer destruction scene all about bucking the system, which is exactly what both the song and the scene achieved. Turns out, "Damn it feels good to be a gangster" translates perfectly to "Damn it feels good to destroy office equipment." Corporate team building videos tried to copy it later, landing with all the grace of a fax machine in 2025. But the original printer beatdown is still pure therapy 25 years later.
Number 8. Comedy Central made it go viral before viral was even a thing. When Office Space hit theaters in February 1999, nobody cared. I'm not exaggerating. Literally, nobody cared. It made just $12.2 million worldwide, barely covering its $10 million budget, and definitely didn't impress the studio that wanted the next Austin Powers. Fox was expecting, "Yeah, baby," and got, "Yeah, I'm gonna need you to come in on Saturday." Same apathy, completely different energy. But then came the second life, the revenge tour, if you will. VHS, DVD, and endless Comedy Central reruns turned a theatrical failure into a cultural phenomenon. The channel first aired it in August 2001 to 1.4 million viewers, then ran it 35 times by 2003. That's when the movie transformed from flop to corporate scripture.
Hello, Peter. What's happening? I'm gonna need you to go ahead and come in tomorrow. So if you could be here around 9, that would be great. Okay?
Suddenly, everyone knew TPS reports. Everyone had a case of the Mondays. Everyone wanted that red stapler. It became the shared language of workplace misery. Water cooler talk, conversation starter, lunch break discussion, comfort watch, the movie your coworker definitely has on their laptop. Irony doesn't get richer than that. A movie about lazy employees only finding success after years of doing absolutely nothing but playing on cable. Now we're going to take a quick break, but if you're enjoying this deep dive into corporate rebellion, hit that like button, subscribe, and tell us in the comments your most quotable Office Space line. Unlike your boss, we'll actually notice.
Now back to more Office Space chaos with number 9. The poster looked like an Office Depot ad, and Judge hated it. You know that weird guy covered in Post-it notes on the original Office Space poster? Mike Judge saw it and said it looked like an Office Depot ad made by someone who had never laughed. And he wasn't wrong.
The tagline "Work sucks" didn't help. It was about as subtle as a Lumbergh memo and completely missed the film's deadpan satire. They even put a guy in a plexiglass cube in Times Square for 5 days as a publicity stunt. The perfect way to sell a workplace satire, actual workplace torture in Midtown Manhattan. When the film flopped, Judge finally got revenge on the DVD release. He convinced Fox to redesign the cover, sneaking Milton peeking out from behind the Post-it man with his red stapler. That small change flipped the whole marketing message. Fans got the reference, and suddenly the packaging actually showed what made the movie special.
Boy, I tell you, some days, one of these days it's just gonna be like...
So can I get you gentlemen something more to drink? Or maybe something to nibble on? Some pizza shooters, shrimp poppers, or extreme fajitas?
Just coffee.
Okay. Sounds like a case of the Mondays.
Also, it's proof that Milton is more valuable as marketing than he ever was as an employee, which feels pretty fitting. Number 10. Lumbergh's meltdown got deleted to keep him robotic. Somewhere on the cutting room floor sits a scene where Bill Lumbergh finally loses it, and it's exactly as unsettling as you'd imagine, like watching Mr. Rogers curse. The scene showed his Porsche being towed after Peter stole his parking spot. For once in his beige life, the usually unflappable boss completely freaked out. Gary Cole nailed the explosion, shouting as the tow truck dragged away his luxury status symbol, probably his only real emotion since 1987. But when Mike Judge watched the playback, something felt fundamentally wrong. Lumbergh wasn't supposed to feel emotions. His whole power came from that soul-dead monotone, the eternal, "Yeah?"
I'd like to go ahead and welcome a new member to our team here. This is Bob Slidell. Yeah.
That made your skin crawl and your spirit die. So Judge cut it. The meltdown was axed. And all we see now is the Porsche being hauled off in the background while Peter, Michael, and Samir cheer. Blissfully unaware, they've destroyed their boss's entire identity. Cole later said he was relieved. The outburst made Lumbergh seem human, and that ruined the whole joke. We needed him to stay robotic, untouchable, and forever calm. Keeping him composed, even while his only friend got towed, made him scarier, funnier, and infinitely more memorable. Number 11. PC load letter was real, and the reaction was completely instinctive.
One of the exercises that you're supposed to figure out what you would want to do. If PC load letter, what the f does that mean?
The most relatable line in Office Space wasn't even in the script. When that possessed printer flashed PC load letter on the screen, David Herman had the same reaction we all do. Complete confusion mixed with rage. It turns out that cryptic error message was 100% real. Hewlett-Packard actually programmed their printers to spit out that gibberish, as if office workers didn't already have enough reasons to fantasize about destruction. Herman's line, "PC load letter, what the does that mean?" wasn't acting. The printer jammed mid-take, and his frustration was so raw, so perfectly universal, that Mike Judge knew he'd struck comedy gold. That's the sound of every person who's ever battled a printer at 4:45 p.m. on a Friday. To this day, tech forums still reference PC load letter whenever something breaks, which, let's be honest, is constantly. Printers run on spite, toner, and the tears of people who just need to print one more page. Number 12. The waiter with too much flair took Fox to court and lost. Remember Brian, the overly enthusiastic Tchotchke's waiter who guilt-tripped Joanna about expressing herself with more buttons?
Well, like Brian, for example, has 37 pieces of flair on today, okay? A terrific smile.
You want me to wear 37 pieces of flair like you're a pretty boy over there, Brian?
Actor Todd Duffy loved playing that guy until 2007, when his face ended up all over a product called the Office Space Box of Flair. It came with a parody guidebook and 15 actual buttons. Duffy sued Fox, claiming the studio used his likeness without permission on both the book cover and one of the buttons, a legal no-go under the Lanham Act. The court, however, disagreed. And here's where it gets beautifully poetically ironic. His contract, a standard day player agreement, gave the studio all rights throughout the universe to his performance. Yes, throughout the universe, not just Earth, not just this dimension, but the entire cosmos, every parallel reality, all possible futures.
Somewhere in the multiverse, there's a version of Brian still asking for more flair. The judge called the language clear, legal speak for "you signed your soul away and the receipts are ironclad," and dismissed the case in 2014. It's poetic, really. The guy who embodied mindless corporate enthusiasm got legally crushed by the most corporate clause imaginable.
Number 13. The cast started swearing on purpose to avoid a PG-13 rating. Midway through filming, word got out that Fox wanted Office Space to be PG-13. The logic was simple. A broader audience, more ticket sales, less profanity equals more money. Basic studio math that completely missed the point. But the cast reaction was more like, "Over our dead printer."
Give it to me. Come on, you little let's go. That's what I need. Let's do that. Let's do exactly that, you little
David Herman remembered that when he heard about the plan, he immediately started dropping more F-bombs into every scene he could. He called it stuffing as many blue words as possible between things to make it impossible to sanitize the film in post-production. Mike Judge quietly approved, because the whole team knew that cleaning up the film would ruin its authenticity. After all, no one trapped in corporate hell curses politely while their printer jams for the 15th time that morning. The rebellion worked. The strategic swearing pushed the movie into R-rated territory, keeping the edge that made it feel real. Without those improvised curses, Office Space might have ended up as a forgettable, family-friendly training video about teamwork and positive attitudes.
Number 14. Mike Judge turned down the sequel because the first one nearly broke him. Now, Hollywood logic says if a movie flops, you bury it and act like it never happened. But for Office Space, once it blew up on DVD and cable, Fox suddenly wanted a sequel. And Mike Judge couldn't stop laughing at the irony. The same studio that called it too slow, too weird, and marketed like a clearance sale now wanted him back for round 2. But Judge's experience making the first film had been a nightmare of executive interference, creative tug-of-war, and notes about more energy that completely missed the tone.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm tired of being pushed around. Aren't you?
Yes, Peter. But I'm not going to do anything illegal.
Illegal? Samir, this is America.
Every battle he'd won, keeping the Geto Boys, maintaining the deadpan tone, and resisting the PG-13 cut had cost him something. When Fox asked him about a sequel, he politely said no. He later told interviewers that just thinking about going through that process again gave him hives, which is probably the most relatable thing anyone involved with Office Space has ever said.
Number 15. The Office came calling and Mike Judge hung up immediately. Now, we know he turned down Office Space 2, but little did he know another Office would soon knock. A few years later, NBC reached out, asking Mike Judge to adapt The Office for American audiences. NBC even sent him a packet full of glowing reviews for the British version.
No, show us your moves.
Nah, there's no beat, is there?
go on.
You can't, you know, music and everything. Well, let's, well, I just for charity, just a little bit.
Critics loved it. Audiences loved it. Everyone loved it. Then Judge started reading, and the first line of one article stopped him cold. The Office succeeds where movies like Office Space failed. That was it. Judge threw the material down and turned the job down on the spot. No meetings, no phone calls, no polite, "let me think about it and get back to you." Just no, hard pass. The gig went to Greg Daniels, Judge's own King of the Hill collaborator, who turned it into one of TV's most successful sitcoms. NBC got their Office. It became a phenomenon. And Mike Judge? Well, he was perfectly happy watching from the outside, probably laughing at the irony. And that's 15 weird facts about Office Space, a movie that flopped harder than a printer on a Monday morning. So which fact surprised you the most? The flair subplot that killed an actual restaurant policy? Or the swearing rebellion that saved the rating? Drop it in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell. And remember, if anyone asks for those TPS reports, just tell them you're working from home. They can't prove otherwise.